Okay. All right. So, Mr. Willis, whenever you're ready, sir.
Thank you. I think I am ready. This is the September 8th, 2021 study meeting of the Southfield Planning Commission. We are meeting by way of broadcast on cable 15. My name is Robert Willis. I am Vice President, sitting instead of the President, Jeremy Griffin, who had a conflict with today's meeting. And with that, this meeting has come to order.
Okay, sir, would you like a roll call vote?
Yes, sir. Could you please?
Okay. Mr. Culpepper.
Here.
Mr. Griffiths is excused. Mr. Huntington.
Present.
Mr. Martin.
Present.
Ms. Mia is excused. Dr. Stevens Gunn.
I'm here.
And Mr. Willis.
Here.
Okay, Mr. Vice Chairman, you do have a quorum to conduct business this afternoon.
Thank you. I believe on the agenda we are looking at presentations from various departments for the American Recovery Fund. What is that? Code enforcement is the first one on the agenda.
Yes, sir. What you may want to do is have a motion and a second to approve your agenda.
You know, I think that would be in order too. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I would ask for that motion.
To the chair, this is Commissioner Culpepper.
Yes.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as written.
Support, Commissioner Huntington.
Thank you. That motion has been approved and seconded. Can we have a roll call?
Yes, sir. Mr. Culpepper.
Yes.
Mr. Huntington.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Dr. Stevens Gunn.
Yes.
And Mr. Willis.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Vice Chairman, you have an approval of your agenda this afternoon.
Thank you so much. Do I need to just restate that this is part of an agenda to address funds that may be provided through the American Recovery Fund, and that we will hear from several departments this afternoon? And I believe the first department to present is the Code Enforcement Department.
Yeah, and if I may, sir, before we get into the various departments, just for the public who is either watching on cable or listening online, this particular discussion has to do with the American Recovery Funds. Coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds provide eligible governments with a substantial infusion of resources to meet pandemic response needs, to rebuild a stronger, more equitable economy as the country moves forward and recovers. Within the categories of eligible uses, recipients have broad flexibility to decide how best to use this funding to meet the needs of their communities. With regard to those various categories mentioned, they include supporting public health expenditures, address negative economic impact caused by public health emergency, to replace lost public sector revenue, provide premium pay for essential workers, and to invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. And you will see as we proceed through these presentations this afternoon that we will have a slide that actually indicates per department what those various funds they're seeking within those 5 categories. You'll see that on the left-hand side of the slide. Then a description of exactly what they would like to use those particular funds for. The city of Southfield is eligible for $9.8 million worth of American Recovery Funds. I will note ahead that going through the presentations, there actually is an ask for a lot more than what's available to the city. So there will be, obviously opportunity to maybe pick and choose or whittle down some of these requests, because again, the city just has a limited pool of 9.8 versus what was asked by all the departments. Last week we heard from 3 departments, and we want to do the balance of the departments this afternoon. And again, we're going to be starting with code enforcement, and the manager for code enforcement, Therese Beeks, is on this afternoon. And Ms. Beeks, now is your opportunity to make your presentation.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Therese Beeks. I'm the Director of Code Enforcement. I believe I have two requests on the floor. The first is for hardship assistance to assist property owners in connecting to the city sewer should they experience a septic failure. The failed septic system may contaminate soil and groundwater at the surface, leading to public health and pollution to the environment. To promote health and safety in residential areas by eliminating environmental obstacles, homeowners must repair or replace the septic system. And I find that a lot of the property owners are experiencing a hardship due to COVID. I am requesting $100,000 to assist property owners who have experienced a failed septic system in connecting to the city sewer. When connecting to the city sewer, a property owner must first obtain a tap permit. The tap permit is approximately $5,000. And they have to hire a contractor, and the contractor's fees can range anywhere from $3,000 to $15,000, depending on the size of the property and where the connection is. This would qualify under the following provision of the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds: address negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency, and invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. And that is my first request, and I thank you for your consideration.
Hey, Therese, why don't you give both of your presentations, because I do see you have sidewalk removal equipment as well.
Yes.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and present that as well?
Okay, the second request is for code enforcement funds for code enforcement to request 2 snow raiders. Like the Department of Public Works, the snow raider machine would assist in clearing sidewalks efficiently and in a fast manner. It would clear the sidewalk in one pass and salt the sidewalks as they pass. We currently have commercial grade snow blowers and some residential grade snow blowers, and we find that it takes a while to remove the snow in residential areas. So we're requesting $30,000 to cover the cost of 2 snow raiders. It would qualify under the provision of supporting public health expenditures by funding COVID-19 mitigation efforts. And we asked for the snow raiders because we find that during COVID, there was an increase in pedestrian traffic. People chose to walk more in the wintertime, and this would help alleviate sidewalk barriers of snow and ice. And again, I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Jeff, you could help me out. Do we have an audience?
I'm sorry, sir.
I don't believe we have an audience, so I would ask the commissioners if they have any questions.
Yeah, you can go ahead and ask commissioners if they have questions.
And that is what I'm asking.
This is Geraldine Gunn.
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Gunn.
I'm very, very impressed with your sanitary sewer connection grant, especially because there are a lot of our residents may be financial hardships in order to make those kinds of repairs. But I see that you have projected cost of $0, so I'm not understanding why this is a proposal here. And could you just give me a little bit more information? Why is the projected cost $0? Just fill in the blanks for me there.
Yeah, if I may, to Dr. Stevens-Gunn, through the chair, I believe that when Ms. Beeks originally brought this to us, that maybe the costs maybe were inaccurate at the time. She can confirm that, because I also noticed that we have a projected cost of $22,000 for sidewalk, but she had mentioned 30,000. So, Ms. Beeks, if you could kind of respond to that.
Well, yes, under the sanitary sewer connection, I requested 100,000 based on the cost of the tap fees alone. We currently have approximately 14 properties with a failed septic system. And as you know, 14 times $5,000 is $70,000. And I'm not sure how many other failures are out there. So I requested $100,000. And it's not a guarantee that everyone will apply for the hardship assistance. Some of the property owners are applying for sewer loans through both code enforcement and the housing program. So it's not a guarantee that everyone will apply for hardship assistance. So I just rounded it to $100,000.
Okay, but that is a projected cost, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So through the chair to Dr. Stevens-Gunn, that was on our side to fill that in. So we'll make sure that we put in the proper project costs for your regular meeting.
Thank you.
And for the sidewalk snow removal equipment, I requested $30,000 based on an estimate that I received from one contractor. But after I submitted my request, because there was a deadline, I got another estimate from another company. So I just rounded it to $30,000. It could be less.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
To the chair, this is Commissioner Culpepper.
This is Commissioner Huntington.
Mr. Culpepper first, Mr. Huntington after that.
Ms. Biggs, great two proposals. As you well know,
Thank you.
we had a lot of conversation with the residents on trying to get hooked up to the city sewer. And this is a great project to go forward. Only asking for $100,000, which of course, you know that you may get that and you may not, based on what various departments are asking for and what we are allotted is only 9.8. A lot of these numbers may be have to be adjusted. And that's a question I'll ask Jeff and Terry later on the adjustment. But again, that's a great thing because you are looking out for the residents, and that's great. Question for you and for the other recipients that's going to request sidewalk snow removal equipment. Is that equipment listed in our CIPs? That's one thing we got to look at is some of these things that's coming forward last week were in our CIP proposal. So we need to take a look at if they were in that CIPs, and I know the CIP has not been officially approved yet, but we don't want to do double duty. If equipment, sidewalk snow removal, which is needed, I agree the two are needed, but if that's in your CIPs, we need to take a look at that going forward. But overall, great job. Glad that what you have is trying to make sure that the residents are safe and have adequate sewage. So I am very impressed with this. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, if I may through the chair to Mr. Culpepper, the CIP actually has been approved. The city council did that. You might be thinking about the master plan we're currently going through, but the CIP has been approved.
But Jeff, what I'm not sure about, and I got the CIP book here, is snow removal equipment on the CIP for the code enforcement. Is that part of one of the approvals?
Sir, not for code enforcement, no.
Okay, we're good then. Okay, point taken, Jeff. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I believe Mr. Huntington.
Yes, thank you. The snow machines to clear the sidewalks, I think that's a good idea. I think that's a new modern way to do things. And I think it's going to save a lot of money labor-wise. So hopefully over the years they kind of pay for themselves because it is a lot faster way to do it. Now, I do have a question about the $100,000 for the sewer tap-ins. If only 9 or 10 people sign up for this hardship and you're approved for the $100,000, what happens to this extra money? I'm not sure if that's a question for you, Jeff, or whoever. But what happens to the extra money if it is approved for 100,000 and only 9 or 10 people apply?
I would think through the chair to Mr. Huntington that that those funds would just be made available to another department. Again, we're just projecting costs, and anything that would be left over that is unused, I'm sure we could use for another department.
Okay, so it still kind of stays in the pool of money and it could go somewhere else if needed. Okay. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Martin.
Thank you. Mr. Martin, I believe you're next.
I understand that there are 14 homes with failed septic systems at current time. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. From 2019 to current, I have some cases that are in the court system. Some property owners are in the process of applying for loans, but I currently count 14 failures.
Do we know how many septic systems are within the city, the total number?
I believe it's over 1,000. I would say close to 2,000.
And how often are these septic systems tested?
We send out notices to property owners to have their septic evaluated every 3 years, concurrently running. So if I send out notices to property owners in a batch, say 200 to 200 different property owners, the evaluations trickle in, and then once I completed that batch, I start a new round of sending notices to property owners.
So, I at current time, only looking at 14. I understand what you're saying and doing. But are there any contingencies for the remaining 986 homes?
Well, we send out notices when they're due for an evaluation. So another round will be going out this fall to the property owners who are past due for an evaluation. And they're due for an evaluation every 3 years. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, sir.
No problem, no problem.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
This is Administrator Zorn. I just want to comment. Ms. Beeks is not giving her department enough credit. In the last 6 years, the sewer systems were installed in 98 at the expense of $38 million to our water system. Every other city in this state, the requirement would have been within a certain period of time, you have to connect. Southfield never aggressively pushed that. In 2008, we had what was called the Dirty Dozen and the Filthy 50, and we immediately dealt with that. But in the last 6 years, Code and Therese, Ms. Beeks, and Maria Calhoun were very instrumental in making that happen, where we have a more robust. I think the commission needs to recognize that we also have an internal loan program. This council and Mayor Cyber advocated that the tap fee be reduced. When the sewer system was put in, one of the finance mechanisms was that each property owner would pay a tap fee. That original tap fee was set at $7,000 and adjusted annually for the lost revenue to the system. I think about 15, we dropped it to a flat 5,000. And then we also have a septic sewer loan program that is not income based. And then Tyrese, what about 4 years ago, we set up what we call the SHIP was the home improvement program, capitalized through the water department for income eligible families. That is a grant that's interest free and deferred onto point of sale. But I want the commission to know, to the question of what happens with the other, and I actually think the number of septics not connected is way less than 1,000. I don't have the exact number in front of me. I think we started out with about 1,700, and we still have people who go through their annual inspection. So we do have a program to help these folks out. Now, Therese, you're proposing this would be a grant. Have you thought about how that income qualifier would be? Are these people in court who are just refusing to go through either the loan or the grant program?
Yes, Fred, I listed it I listed it as having no income requirements, unlike the SHIP program.
Okay.
But they must meet 6 factors. They must have a failed septic system, certified by due to an evaluation completed by a certified evaluator. So they must have proof that they have a failed septic system. They must have exposed effluent at the ground surface so that we know that it is affecting the environment. They must own the home for at least 12 months. Must have current homeowners insurance. Must be current on their property taxes, and may not have more than 1 lien currently existing against the property. I can say it's not often that we have failures, but when they're bad, we find that they're bad because the property owner can't afford to connect or can't afford to repair.
So why wouldn't the property owner go through one of the two existing remedies?
Well, I can tell you I have some pushback now from property owners who drag their feet. We cite them to appear in court, and they drag their feet because they don't want to apply for a loan, and they don't want to be responsible for paying $1,000 to $2,000 a year for 18 years. I'm sorry, the first 3 years are interest only, and then after that they would be paying towards the premium, and they're reluctant to pay that over the course of years.
I think one of the considerations the commission may need to recognize, Tyrese, we've got hundreds of loans out there now, and we have lots of grants. People the city's water department will get these monies back over time. I just think the commission needs to recognize the other existing programs. And for me, part of the question is, how is one person eligible for this? Well, someone else may have taken out the average connections of what, $10,000 to $11,000 right now?
Yes, approximately 5,000 to tap in, and then whatever the contractor may charge.
Right. Well, the tap is fixed at 5,000. And then what I see as they come across my desk for the grant ones for those who are income eligible is 10 to 12,000. So those are my thoughts for the commission to just ponder. On the snow removal equipment, each year there are items placed in the equipment revolving loan. Have we made a request to the equipment revolving loan for this new piece of equipment, Tyrese?
No, I hadn't placed it in my budget or requested it. But when the American Recovery Funds were announced, I thought that it would be a good idea to ask for the snow removal equipment. This year, I budgeted for weed removal equipment. So I was not going to ask for snow removal equipment this year.
And I'll just also remind the board, prior years, Code did receive roughly $30,000 a year from HUD. This year, because there's so much competition for the HUD dollars, and there's been a reduction, Code was cut out this year from Code, from getting money from our community development block grant allocation funded by HUD. So I'll just share that with you, that make the concept of fungibility, one federal source, maybe picking up a cost where we had to make cuts in the current community development block grant program.
Okay. Are there,
That
Yeah,
concludes
going
my
on.
comments.
Going on with my question,
yes, sir, go ahead.
have you previously been doing snow removal?
Yes, we do snow removal at properties that have been notified and are in violation after we've notified them. And we do snow removal at vacant properties and abandoned properties.
Okay.
We do it with snow shovels and regular grade snow blowers, which is time consuming.
Yeah, definitely. I understand. And
Maurice, you charge the homeowner for that as well,
Yes, we do.
or the property owner.
Yes. We clear the pedestrian sidewalk only, not the driveway.
Okay.
okay,
Okay.
uh,
Mr. Martin, any more questions?
never mind. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Any other commissioners, any further questions? Well, this is Commissioner Rob Willis. I guess I do have, and I'm not sure how to couch this. It seems that the sewer connection issue is kind of a long-term situation going on some years. And this seems to be requesting kind of a patch for it in the middle. And I'm not sure if I get a flavor of how the patch in the middle kind of fixes the entire system. And is that something we should look at with these funds?
Well, I agree. It would be a patch for definitely the property owners who were affected by COVID and experiencing a hardship at this time. It may be something down the road that I can apply for through federal funds again. But at this time, I requested it based on the provisions of the American Recovery Fund.
Mr. Chairman, let me just, something else for the commission to think about. For those of us who are connected to sewer, if my sewer line collapses, that's my obligation. And we have, for the first time in Michigan, something unique happening. That connection from my home to the private sewer line has historically been considered a private function. And I'm going to flip to water connection systems, completely different. And I only point that out with recent legislation passed regarding lead. We now have the state, and Southfield is in excellent position on this, requiring that we connect from the water service line to where the house connects, and I believe roughly 2 feet beyond the meter. And that begins to blur that line of what is public and private. And when you start blurring that line, you begin creating very unique positions. Going back to septic, what Southfield has done in creating the loan and the grant program, we're doing things that I'm telling you, if you go out to those more rural parts of the state, they're not doing. A couple years ago, Senator Moss had me speak with representatives from Eagle about this. I've had a repeated request from the state for enabling legislation, allowing us to clearly have the legal authority to do this. I would argue public purpose and public health, but we are using the water system funds to pay for these connections in the same way that the water system funds built the sewer lines back in 98. So those are just some other considerations that this body should consider.
Okay. Commissioners, do we have any further questions? Then, with that, should we, do you have any concluding statements? I think we have an agenda that we need to look at. Okay. With that, Terry, should we start looking at Public Works, the water management system?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the stormwater manager is online, Brandy Slotchik. So Brandy will be making her presentation at this time.
Thank you.
And Brandy, you need to take yourself off mute.
Okay. Now can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks. This is Brandy Slotchik. I'm the stormwater manager for the city, and my proposal was to propose to use the ARF funds for updating the city's stormwater master plan to determine the financial needs and to propose a draft funding plan for a stormwater utility. So this request is for $250,000 and falls under the investing in infrastructure portion of the ARF funds. As probably some of you know, the city currently has no dedicated funding source for stormwater. So all of our capital improvement projects that for stormwater either have to be funded by a grant or another fund, such as the general fund or through our road programs. So it takes away money from those vital services. So this would actually set us up to potentially put a stormwater utility into place. In the past years, we've had updates to our stormwater master plan that have addressed stormwater performance and modeling and capacity, but this would bring our master plan one step further and focus more on funding or look at a funding plan for a stormwater utility and what would need to be done to set that up. So if the utility was adopted, it would provide a dedicated funding source for Southfield's aging stormwater infrastructure. Obviously, we've had several storms in this past year, and we've had several failures within our storm system, and it's very difficult to find funding for corrections of those issues. So this proposal would be the step moving forward to look at a long-term funding source to help with those corrections. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Mr. Willis, this is Commissioner Culpepper. I just had a comment.
Mr. Culpepper?
Right, I think this is absolutely great because history has told us we need to improve and invest in our infrastructure. So with you going forward with this, trying to be proactive and ward off any more of these bad storms we have and having major trouble, I think this is an excellent proposal, and I hope that it goes through. But great job. Invest in our infrastructure. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other commissioners?
Commissioner Willis, this is Commissioner Martin.
Commissioner Martin, go ahead.
You mentioned that there were several failures. Can you provide some type of information on where the failures were, so we have a better understanding of?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a couple sinkholes that have happened. One on 12 Mile and actually one on Telegraph. Of course, those are funded by other agencies, the Road Commission and MDOT, so we kind of lucked out there. But, there's been erosion happening along the Rouge River. Just the deterioration of our infrastructure. You don't see the storm drains below ground, and we haven't had a true asset management plan for stormwater to determine, what those storm systems look like and what their failure rates are. So I was even talking to, I think it was Lee earlier this week, and there was a failure under a roadway. I forget exactly what it was, but it was a catch basin falling in and realizing that the storm drain system is not there anymore just because it's been washed away or eroded away, or it's just old and aged out. And those types of systems don't typically get funded unless we're redoing a road or redoing our water system. And we've been, over the past 20 years or so, or more or less 10 years, we've been trying to implement, innovative stormwater projects such as green infrastructure and that on our city properties. But this would also look at a way of potentially funding those types of projects as well as the underground infrastructure and the stuff that you don't see.
So in essence, then you don't have locations set specific. It's when you have a failure that you really realize where it needs to be done.
Exactly. I mean, we did a stormwater master plan update actually about 10 years ago, and that focus was on looking at, issues throughout the city. So we do know areas where there's flooding and, potential failures. We didn't actually go through and TV all of the storm system. I mean, that's another huge money, thing we'd have to do if we did get the utility put into place, but that would pay for that as well. But we did look at, what we know of and what we've, what kind of complaints we've got in the past. It also suggested what types of projects to do. And actually, we can check off a bunch of those projects that are on that list. And so this would also potentially update that project list as well. I actually forgot to mention what the actual $250,000 would pay for. I mean, I said to set up the utility, but it would basically be looking at a parcel basis, looking at, the hard infrastructure and what types of fees that we would be calculating, to pay per parcel, and looking at an overall capital improvement plan and, figuring out over years to come what the costs associated with the program would be. So it would also develop an ordinance to put this, to put the utility into place and create a public relations piece to get the information out to the public about a utility if it were adopted.
Would this deal with street flooding where the sewer lines are clogged?
Yes, so it would definitely help with the maintenance of the storm system. And, likely we'd look at replacing some of the storm system in areas where, there might be failure, and we're just, going out there to, clean up the catch basins and do some temporary type work. But in reality, we might need a larger project put into place to help the capacity of those storm drains. So yes, it would help. I'm not going to say it's going to help with every single maintenance issue for sure, but, would help on a regular basis to fix some of those flooding issues for sure.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Any other commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Administrator Zorn again. Brandy, you have two planning documents, the HRC plan from 2000 and the ECT plan from roughly 2010, 11?
Yeah, 2012, yep.
2012. Have those plans been incorporated into the city's master plan documents?
I know that they are definitely referenced in there. We do have our Rouge Watershed Management Plan and our Green Infrastructure Plan as well that are referenced in the master plan. And we did do a initial study through our watershed group with SAW funding that looked at a stormwater utility, and our community was one of those looked at. So we have a start with this project.
I would like to just make sure that those are tied together. And you mentioned SAW. That was the other point. Under Governor Snyder, there was funding to fund and to put together a better asset management system. And I think Commissioner Culpepper, made reference to that constant capital investment, how it depreciates and such. Southfield received funding for our sanitary and our water because there was so much litigation at that point about how these stormwater was being funded. We made and did not have a funding mechanism. We made a conscious decision not to go after that. Now the dust is settled on some of the legal courses, and as you go through this planning exercise, you have a better chance of putting a system together. Randy and I were, in Ann Arbor 6, 7 years ago, possibly longer, looking at what other communities are doing. We've been following this litigation. So I just want, there was an opportunity. We passed on it because it was such an extensive legal area. The dust is settling. There's an opportunity there. And I think the other thing that this commission needs to recognize is the Oakland County Water Resource Commission, who's another large partner in the storm system. They have rewritten their rules. They are waiting for state approval. Upon state approval, that is going to cause a rewrite and a review of our ordinances that will probably pull some inspection requirements that the city's going to have to figure out, as well as possibly change the engineering standards that we approve. My other comment is the new road infrastructure is more robust in how stormwater is treated off of our roads as well. So there are a lot of things happening. The discussion that we hear in Congress about climate resiliency, that's a larger part that will have some impact on us as well. So I think there are a lot of things happening, and I wish things had been different when we got the money for. I believe we received $2 million for our water and sanitary system. It would have been nice to have been doing our storm, but we just simply weren't at that point. So there's a lot of things happening. I think this is a good response. And I think ultimately, as the country wrestles with infrastructure, we'll see things. I did have one final comment. The last 6 storms, we had roughly 42 homes have some water come in. I'm reluctant to say the homes were flooded. And in every one of them, the city system was not at fault. There's only one home where a lift station failed where we were at fault. But when we get into it, and here's the point I want to make. In 2007-8, up in Beacon Hill neighborhood, we ran a pilot program with the Water Resource Commission on helping people retrofit these homes that are 50, 60 years old. And a lot of the problems we have with water coming into our homes is how the footing drains, how they're connected to this storm drain system. A lot of them, the old clay pipes that were used prior to 1990 are blocked. I can tell you from my experience with whether it's NSP or SNRI, as we get in and you're waterproofing and rebuilding foundations, the storm systems that were built, they have exhausted their useful life, and the material, the pipes are completely blocked. So a larger issue, and I equate it to what we have with homes not being connected to the sewer system. A good percentage of our housing stock probably needs to address its footing drain systems and how they connect. So that's the other subtext that comes up. I mean, 42 homes our water department investigates, and none of them are backups caused by the city. So I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
One other thing is for your stormwater thing, are there any, do you look at street flooding and what the residents aren't doing for the gutters in the street to cause the streets to flood? I mean, there's no responsibility for the residents to clean the street gutters, and that causes a lot of flooding, I know.
Right. I mean, I just had actually last week a couple of residents calling, saying that their streets flooded, and I said, go out there and take a look at the grates. DPW will eventually get to it when they can, but there's several problems throughout the city. That's not their immediate concern with all these storms we've had. It's a concern, obviously, but whenever I talk to people, I tell them to clear out the grates, and it would go, the water will move faster. But I feel like the stormwater utility putting this into play gets a lot of public education information out there for the residents, and hopefully, is continuing to educate them on what they can do to prevent flooding and or prevent, or help with water quality. So it's a good education piece as well, and that those types of things would be tied to this program as well.
It appears it might be a possibility to put a city ordinance in to make the residents responsible for it. The grades in front of their home.
Yeah, I wish we could do that. I mean, it could be something that we could look at, but it definitely is a concern for sure.
That's pie in the sky dream. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Martin. Are there any other questions, commissioners?
Yes, through the chair, I had a question.
Yes.
Commissioner Huntington.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Huntington. Okay.
Does this money or this program, are you going to do anything with the detention ponds and bioswales, or are we inspecting these and trying to update them? Some of them are getting a little old and not functioning properly.
Actually, the program would probably, it doesn't specifically address those issues, but as Mr. Zorn mentioned, the county is actually just adopted their new stormwater standards last Thursday or Wednesday or whenever their board meeting was. So those would be, coming out to the communities, and we would be looking at potentially adapting them. We use the county standards currently, but we need to do an internal review to make sure that's something that we want to do what they're proposing. And the state has already, given the verbal approval, but I'm not sure if they've given the official approval. But anyways, that's coming down the road. Long story short, like that new update would probably incorporate inspection requirements for detention basins and bioswales and stuff on private property as well as public property. So we'd have to be doing our own inspections as well. So that as Fred mentioned, we do need to look at that moving forward and come up with the program and plan, which we've been looking at. So we have some ideas. So that eventually would help with, the inspection piece of the detention basins and those above ground storm systems, rain gardens and stuff that you can actually see. And you can see that, if there's an issue going on. Obviously, we don't see what's going on underground, so those things would also have to be looked at as well. So,
if I may, through the chair to Mr. Huntington, as you are probably aware, we do require site maintenance agreements on every project that we have in Southfield. Not every single one has them. Some of the older projects, especially. If they have detention basins that were put in before, we required site maintenance agreements. But in those SMAs, we do require that the property owner be responsible for taking care of his detention pond. So if we find that one is not functioning correctly, we can actually employ that site maintenance agreement to make sure that does get taken care of.
Okay. Thank you. Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Thank you, commissioners. Any further questions? Well, then I think that gives us plenty of information to look at that.
Thank you, Brandon.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think we're Human Resources is up next.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Dr. Maria Calhoun is on this afternoon to make the presentation on behalf of Human Resources.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
During the early stages of the pandemic, the city of Southfield undertook measures to reduce the spread of the coronavirus, such as installing protective barriers in public areas and some individual workspaces, and did not undergo extensive modifications at that time. Instead, administration approved a rotating hybrid work from homes and in-office schedule. The need to create a safer environment exists as we transition back into the office. It is important to note that that HR is one of the few departments where other employees and general public are routinely inside of our employee workspace. And in review of Treasury Department Rule 86 FR 26786, we believe that our request meets the following provisions: support urgent COVID-19 response efforts to continue to decrease the spread of the virus. Further, we believe that the request falls under the category of COVID-19 mitigation and prevention on the list of non-exclusive uses that addresses the effects of COVID-19 services, which include capital investments in public facilities to meet pandemic operational needs, such as adaptations to public buildings, which is what a part of our request is asking for. We are requesting to update our recruitment and training rooms to encompass, the department is requesting to purchase desks and chairs that are approximately 36 inches in length for each training room. The proposed desk change will create a greater amount of space between room occupants, and the replacement of chairs is necessary to accommodate the height configuration of the new desk. It's important to note, if anyone has ever been inside of our training rooms, they are badly in need of some updates and modifications. The cost of the desk would be approximately $6,194 for they actually come in units, and they're two U-shaped units basically that encompass 10 or so desks each, but they basically conform into one solid mass if that's what you choose to do. And the cost of the desk is $6,191, and the cost for 24 chairs would be $3,325. Again, to address the needs of employee safety, the department is requesting a renovation of office space to promote social distancing. The renovation will allow for the elimination of some open air cubicles and create private office spaces for personnel. And we would, in the request to create new office spaces, there are some additional spaces that we have that we'd like to renovate to spread out, if you will. That would encompass purchasing 5 desks. One desk, because of the configuration of the space, would require a little bit more other than just the desk itself. It would require a desk hutch type combination, and the cost of that desk will be $1,719. And then we're requesting something called a bow front desk for the other 4 spaces that would total the amount of $3,753.48, and chairs for all of the new setups as well would be a total of $1,111.35. Shipping and handling for that particular purchase would be $2,804. The cost of the office renovation, we received an estimate in the amount of $10,922.03, which would basically entail the build out of 2 additional office spaces, if I didn't mention that previously. And as the COVID-19 pandemic continues, all prevention and mitigation measures should be considered. Personnel are working in the office, but there are times when we are still working from home. And as we are in a state right now, we are not quite sure. Oh, there are my slides. Next slide, please. And this slide basically details the cost as I just spoke to. The total cost of furniture items would be $29,828. Next slide, please. The equipment that I just spoke about would be the purchase of 10 iPad 7th generation tablets, and this would allow for staff to attend after our meetings and conduct interviews away from the work site should the need arise. And the cost of those iPads would be $6,902.20. The total cost of the human resources request is $36,730.23. And that concludes my presentation.
Commissioners, any questions?
Commissioner Culpepper here.
Commissioner Culpepper?
Ms. Calhoun, knock
Yes,
on
sir.
wood. Well done, well presented. The funds are to be utilized for COVID prevention and going forward. So I think you laid it out perfectly well. Great job. I hope that it goes through and you get what you need because we need human resources and we need anyone that's coming in contact with other people to be safe. Again,
Thank you.
great job, great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And this is Commissioner Willis. And let me start off with thank you. Now I know why you would need a desk in COVID. It gives us a picture that we did not have.
Thank you.
Have the desk to facilitate work that way. Just didn't understand it until your presentation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, are there any further questions? Okay. With that then, and again, thank you for your presentation, and we will look at the next item.
Thank you for your consideration and the opportunity to present.
You are so welcome.
Great job.
Jeff, I guess we are looking at library.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So your next presentation is by Mary Beal, who is with the Southfield Public Library.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you today. The mission of the Southfield Public Library is we help people succeed. We accomplish that through our book and media collections, expert assistance with research, access to computers, and programs for all ages focusing on learning, culture, and recreation. Throughout the pandemic and the resulting limited access to our building, the library strove to accomplish three things: make the interior of the library safe for in-person use by the public, bridge the digital divide for patrons who did not have access to the building or its resources, and to create alternative outdoor spaces to continue offering programs and educational opportunities to our whole community. Our first proposal has to do with PPE use for our library patrons. When the library started reopening to the public in August 2020, City administration authorized us to purchase PPE for use by the public visiting and using the library in person beyond what the city supplied to employees. This includes hand sanitation stations, cleaning supplies after each patron use for all computers, tables, and workspaces, shrink wrap to protect our furniture and delineate social distancing, K95 masks, surgical masks, and clear face shields for use by the public as requested, and gloves for use by the public. And finally, the purchase of remote PC so that our library staff could assist patrons using computers in a contactless manner. All of these are provided continuously by the library to allow the public to use the library safely in a high-traffic public space while mitigating the spread of COVID-19. The estimated expenditures thus far would be $15,000 yearly. Our second proposal is for mobile hotspots for loan to our library patrons. One of the most heavily used services the Southfield Public Library offers to the public is access to the internet in our computers. When libraries throughout the state were mandated closed to the public, the library realized just how much we were needed to provide this service and have sought ways to increase access through the pandemic. One initiative is to lend mobile hotspots to our community, just as we lend books. This enables our patrons without home access to use the internet outside of the library. Hotspots enable those who are underserved, vulnerable, and unable to travel or be in close contact with others to get access to quality broadband internet service. With this quality of service, our community members gain access to communicate with loved ones, enable access to data and information, purchase goods and services, and obtain access to government and community services, plus job training and healthcare. The access that hotspots provide is also shown to be beneficial to our K-12 students' educational outcomes. Providing access to the internet through a hotspot will help our community apply and interview for jobs online, have their telehealth appointments, work on school projects, and provide access to the library's digital resources for all, not just those who have home internet access. The library plans to purchase 20 mobile hotspots to loan out to patrons, just as we loan out our books. The total cost of devices and internet service plan is estimated at $10,000 yearly. The last proposal before you is our outdoor space repurposing project. The library will repair and repurpose its exterior areas to create more programming spaces. This allows us to create alternative, safer spaces to offer educational, cultural, and recreational events for all of our patrons, but especially for our families and children. In the past, our Evergreen Plaza and the Children's Reading Garden were used solely as passive seating areas. With this project, these areas will become active components of library services. In consultation with City Administration and Parks and Recreation, we have determined the steps to take in order to repair and enhance both our landscaping and hardscaping of these areas for the greatest safety and usability. The plaza will receive new tree plantings, paver repair, and the addition of a pollinator garden to create a space for new library programs. The Children's Reading Garden is currently unusable due to the hazards of tree roots upending the pavers and seating. The current pavers and vegetation will be replaced to make this area available for outdoor story times, children's programs, exercise space, and a vegetable garden. Our walkway surrounding the library will be repaved with extra seating and a secondary programming area to increase outdoor events and opportunities. The proposed landscaping around the library exterior will also provide a beautiful backdrop for our avid walkers and art lovers in our community. This project will extend library services beyond the walls of the building and provide a safe alternative to indoor programming. The budgeted cost of this project is $200,000. That concludes my presentation. Thank you so much.
I think you're on mute, Mr. Willis. Can't hear you.
Thank you so much. I was so elegant then too.
I bet you were.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I want to start off by saying I think I have cheated the library. I have used RB Digital and Hoopla so much over this period of time that I'm sure I owe someone some money someplace. I think they're great services, and so I need to thank you for extending those services. But I'm curious about this hotspot. You're looking at an additional 10. First of all, how does the hotspot work?
Oh, so a hotspot is simply a mobile device that allows you to connect to the internet by Wi-Fi.
Okay.
So it's a device that you check out, and it's actually really small. You bring it into your home, and that's what gives you the ability to connect to Wi-Fi and have an internet connection.
So if I did not have Wi-Fi, if I did have Wi-Fi, I could do that just by borrowing it from the library?
Yes. For example, if you're inside the library or even outside in our parking lot or on the front lawn, you can tap into our Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Because we provide it there. The hotspot is going to be the bridge that you have at your home to tap into Wi-Fi.
Okay. 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 Any other questions?
So what is the range of a Wi-Fi hotspot?
Oh, that's a good question. I'll have to ask our technology librarian. But if you took one of these hotspots home, you would have the ability, and not just you, but other members of your household, to tap in. So one of the things that this does is, imagine you have a family and you have different people needing to use the internet for different reasons. Do a school project, have a Zoom call. People within your household would be able to do this. So you're not just using your phone plan up. If you went in through your phone all the time, you've got one phone you would have to pass around and kill your phone plan. With a hotspot, you've now created other access points for your family members.
I guess my concern is, my issue is, my question was, if I have a hotspot, can kids up and down the block use it to do their schoolwork and other things?
I don't think
it's fine. It's an excellent idea, but to have it so it's limited to just one household seems like it seems like it's not really as efficient as it could be. And here again, I'm looking at
Mr. Martin, excuse me, Mr. Martin, I don't mean to interrupt, but typically hotspots are password protected.
But that's true. But by the same token, if I have a hotspot and there's 3 kids in the houses next door and across the street from me, and they don't have the internet, what's wrong with me being the hotspot for them to use to do their work or to have access to the library and other things? You understand what I'm saying?
They would need to have the password to the hotspot.
And if I have the hotspot, I would let them know so that only they could get into the hotspot. I mean, that part I know. It's just like signing into my network. Without my password, you can't get in.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Did you have any further questions, Mr. Martin?
Well, just interested in the range of a hotspot, if it goes beyond the house or behind a single house, or what type of range it has. That's all.
Okay.
I can make sure I get the specific answer to that for you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
so the outdoor space repurposing, the spreadsheet says 20,000, but I thought I heard Mary say 200.
It is 200,000.
Okay. And then, Mr. Chairman, if maybe the planning staff, I've seen some early census information. Southfield and South Oakland County is very well serviced by broadband. We know nationally this is a hot topic, and part of that, what I'll call the digital divide. I think we were at like 93% coverage. So I like that the hotspot, as a tool of helping us close that gap. And if this is one more tool, but it might be worthwhile if the commission knew, as a part of our infrastructure, what the census detail knew, and if that's maybe something the library or planning staff could research and get back to you, just so you know what percentage of Southfield is covered.
Yes, the library would be happy to put that together for you.
To the chair, Commissioner Culpepper.
Commissioner Culpepper, go ahead.
Ms. Bill, great job. I too, like Mr. Zoran, I'm impressed with your outdoor space repurposing. I think people, kids, they like being outdoors, being able to see the environment and still look at what they need to look at and do their work. So I see that 20,000 should be 200,000, but I'm really impressed with that, and I hope that goes forward, because we need spacing, and being outside does not hamper anyone from coming to the library, being able to do what you want to do and be outside in the fresh air. So thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you.
To the chair, this is Geraldine Stevens-Gunn.
Dr. Gunn, go ahead.
I have a question. Does the library currently provide internet hotspots? And if so, what has the usage been, especially during the pandemic? Thank you.
We do not currently provide them. This is something that we want to start providing right away.
Thank you. Any further questions? Hearing none, Ms. Bill, I have to say thank you for your presentation. It gives us, again, additional insight, information that we are going to need for our deliberations. So once again, thank you.
Thank you so much. I've appreciated this.
Jeff, I believe that brings up technology services.
Yes, it does, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Renee Hinojosa is on the line this afternoon to present this portion.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Renee Hinojosa from Technology Services, and the first item that I have for consideration is the INET. The INET is the network that connects all our buildings together. So the firehouses, the parks and rec areas that have buildings, and the public works buildings are all connected through fiber that run throughout the entire city. As we are building a new INET to introduce some more speed and redundancy in those connections. And those redundant connections will carry our data, our phone, and now we'll also be carrying radio communications for the police. So this project would fall under the infrastructure portion of it, and the total cost would be $2 million. But that cost also carries through for the next 20 years total. So that would cover the maintenance costs of that INET for the next 20 years. Any questions on that?
You know, if you could go ahead and we'll get the commissioners to pipe in.
Gotcha. Okay, the next item would be replacing our firewalls. Our firewalls are getting to become end of life and end of support coming up next year. This project is in my CIP also, and the firewall protects our city from any cyber attacks. It's part of our defense, and we have 2 firewalls installed in our network that are currently running right now. The next item is the Webex room kits. The Webex room kits are going to be installed in the conference rooms, the smaller, the public services conference room and the council study. And that will allow for Webex meetings such as this, but with a small group at a time in the same room. And the Webex room kits is actually like a camera that's mounted to the wall, but the camera is a smart camera, so it kind of senses where all the people are in the room, and whoever's talking, the camera will actually move over to that person, so their face will come up on the Webex during the meeting. The total cost for that would be $11,000. And then the final item that's also in our infrastructure would be the police fleet laptops and docking stations. Every police car is equipped with a laptop and a docking station, and they are coming up on 5 years old, which means they will no longer be supported under warranty. So if one of them goes down, then that car is out of service. So we're looking to replace the entire fleet with new laptops and docking stations.
Okay, does that conclude your presentation?
That concludes my presentation.
I thank you so much. And commissioners, do you have any questions?
Mr. Martin,
Mr.
I
Martin?
have a couple of questions. How old is the current INET?
The current INET is 21 years old. It was completed in 2002.
It's time for it to take a break.
Mr. Chairman, Renee, we're replacing the INET now, so this was more the maintenance cost, am I correct?
We are replacing the INET currently right now. It's scheduled for completion on the end of this month. And this is just to cover everything. The installation cost, which was $700,000, and the rest is maintenance.
And for the commission's knowledge, historically, the installation and the maintenance, those costs were absorbed by Comcast. Am I correct, Renee?
Correct.
And with changes in the recent federal legislation, some of you might have saw yesterday's Free Press, the Troy story about local governments being stripped of certain responsibilities. At the federal level, we used to be able to negotiate as part of our franchise agreements, and our city attorney's office did a phenomenal job. We have one of the longer ones But we are in the waning days of that maintenance cost being absorbed by our cable provider. And so this is a shift of expenditures that the general fund will have to bear. So that's just for your knowledge on that.
So let me make sure I understand. You're saying we're in the process of changing the INET. Some of the expenses have already been gone through the capital expenditures, I assume, but the remaining cost is the $2 million, or the $2 million is the whole cost for the project.
It's my understanding that the 2 million is the annual maintenance cost for the next 20 years. The capital cost, the installation, we set aside money knowing that this obligation was going to come to the city. It was a little bit of how long could we stretch the existing life of the Comcast fiber versus the race for technology. And we still need to have a closed system that links all of our facilities. Particular, if you look at the sensitivity of the data that we have with our police and fire department, we need to have that closed loop system. So
I guess what I don't understand is if you purchase the system, wouldn't you purchase the maintenance of it at the same time? Or
Renee, you want to speak to that?
The maintenance of that is going to be billed monthly per site for the next 20 years. So the cost per site adds up to the project, to the projected cost there total.
it just seems a little odd to me that you have a. Okay, all right, I understand. Thank you.
So we're paying out of our capital fund right now. We're going to be paying the installation of, basically the hardware for it, but the maintenance is a service which we're not going to prepay. We just have the agreement that we're going to pay it at a set amount for the next 20 years on a monthly basis.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Martin?
Chair, this is Commissioner Culpepper.
Commissioner Culpepper, go ahead.
Fred, this question may be to you and to Jeff. Maybe I'm the only one that don't understand this. This is supposed to be the American Recovery Fund tied into the pandemic. My question to Renee is, what effect did the pandemic have on the 4 issues that you are asking for? And maybe it's just me. And maybe I don't have the right terminology for what the recovery fund is supposed to be used for. But looking at this, I just tied into me, what setback did the pandemic have on you to ask for these 4 items?
So that would be, it's part of all these items are part of our infrastructure. And we're just building up more redundancy and resiliency into our infrastructure. During the pandemic, we've had a few outages. We've had storm outages. We've had fiber outages where we've had a building, lose connectivity from the, fiber being cut or something. And it's just this is part of our infrastructure. Just
okay.
If I may, Chair.
Yeah, Fred, help me, Fred.
I think Mr. Culpepper raises a good question. As we go through these requests, that is part of the filter. These are the initial requests that our departments have presented. We encourage them to cast their nets broadly. My finance director, Austin Michaels, has sat through numerous sessions, and the Department of Treasury is still coming out with rules. There will be some additional filters we need to run these things through. Maintenance costs may be a tough one, and we'll be looking at the different rules as the U.S. Department of Treasury has put out. To my knowledge, I think they have put out four different sets of guidelines. There may by now have been a fifth or even a sixth. And Mr. Michaels may be able to better speak to that, but I think that'll be part of as we go through this process. I do like Mr. Henahos's approach, building and strengthening our infrastructure and our resiliency so that we can continue to serve the public, not just responding to the pandemic, but in the event that this pandemic is prolonged or we face some other future health crisis. And I'll say this to IT's credit, we went from less than 20 people being able to work remotely to over 100. The way our court system's operating, our finance, that we mobilized them at an incredible rate, and we were fortunate that we had a lot of the basic infrastructure to let that happen. Then it was more about us relaxing and allowing for, we're so security conscious that was the next big consideration as we went to more remote work locations.
And the pandemic has caused an influx of, actually a steep rise in cyber attacks on local governments and just about everything else too.
And in fact, during the pandemic, Renee, you rehauled all of our cyber standards. You went to that, what was that, Q?
The Q frame, yes.
Yes.
We've improved our cybersecurity posture during this pandemic. Now we have a security operation center stood up, and we actually have 24/7 monitoring of our network.
And if I may, through the chair, to Mr. Culpepper, when you look at the categories for eligible uses, investment in broadband infrastructure is a specific category, and it does deal with expanding access to broadband internet, and also includes the use of funds for maintenance of infrastructure, for building new infrastructure that's part of government services, and so on. So broadband infrastructure is a specific category that's eligible for these monies.
That's the answer, Jeff. That's the answer. Broadband category. That's the answer there. And of course, I didn't see it, but I understand it. That's why I asked the question. Perfect answer. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions? Hearing none, I have a couple of questions, if I may. I'm curious, you're looking at a $2 million budget in your INET to fund something over the next 20 years. It comes out of the budget this year and not out of the next, this year and 19 next budgets that seem to be, anticipating not anticipating, paying something out of this budget for 20 years from now seems to be odd.
No, actually my plan would be if we got that 2 million, we would probably try to stretch it out. I mean, we have to pull it out of our general operating funds for the next 20 years. We could just put it in there and then use it as when it gets needed.
Okay.
Or we could do a negotiation with the provider and see if they'll give us a discount on prepaying it all up front.
Understood.
And not have to worry about it.
Okay. Please forgive for my ignorance. You're looking at laptops and docking stations for the police fleet. Isn't that part of the police budget?
That actually, this one actually falls under the technology services because it is technology. Okay. So our department's always handled it.
Okay, and it would not fall under the police budget?
No.
Okay, I'm good. Again, are there any further questions, commissioners? Well, Mr. Himmelholzer, not hearing questions, I need to thank you for your presentation. You're giving us a lot of things to take a look at.
Mr. Willis,
Yes,
I'm sorry. I did have one question.
okay.
Before you said Verizon was providing this service or Comcast, which one was it?
It was Comcast.
And who's providing the iNet service now or in this contract?
This contract would be Crown Castle.
Also, okay.
Okay.
And their service was month to month before or on an annual basis?
It was the Comcast would have been month to month.
But it was tied to the franchise agreement for a defined period of time, Renee? Correct?
Yeah. So, okay. So it's going through the same process again. All right. Thank you very much. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Again, no more questions. Mr. Himmelholzer, I do thank you so much for your time and your presentation. Again, it gives us a lot of information, a lot of things to ponder. Okay.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners.
Terry, I believe that would bring our next department. Is that Fire Department?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the next presentation is for fire, and Chief Menifee is on the line in order to make the presentation. Chief, I know that you do have a PowerPoint, so if you can just let me know when you want me to go to next slide, just say next slide, and I'll proceed along.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, committee. Thank you for allowing me to discuss 5 projects that I have and want to submit for your review. So can we go to can we go on to the slide? I can just go. Yeah, there. Okay. So the five items I have is protective equipment. So this is firefighting equipment, 150 sets at $2,500. Now we currently have 100 firefighters on the department currently. I have purchased about 40 sets already for the new firefighters, so I wouldn't be looking to replace those sets. So firefighter gear is only, and I'll get into this. Let me just first tell you the project, the price, and then I'll get into each one separately. Is that okay? I just need to get a head shake.
I'm good.
Okay. Okay. So firefighting gear, 150 sets at $375. New self-contained breathing apparatus, and the Cascade system is the filling station. That is $500,000. Commercial generators at $126,000. I'll explain why there's an asterisk by that one. New Fire Station 1 for $9 million, and a new Station 3 at $3.5 million. So if you would go to the next slide, please. So with our firefighting gear, so the National Fire Protection Association sets the standards for firefighters in pretty much every category. You don't necessarily have to follow NFPA standards, but you will be judged and held accordingly if you don't maintain their regulations. Currently in 2020, they came up and said that we need to really clean our fire gear. Anytime it's in an environment with carcinogens, we need to seriously clean that. Currently, our firefighters have one set of gear, and it's a 10-year cycle on the gear, no matter if you use it or on the shelf. So I'm looking to replace gear and give everyone a second set of gear is why I'm asked for this. This is something that I put in the CIP, but the new regulations that came up last year has prompted this up. Like I said, I did put this to get everyone a second set of gear, but during COVID and the amount of cleaning and decon that we had to do with gear really brought this to light of that we need a second set of gear for every firefighter. And like I said, that's at $2,500 a set, which gives you the jacket and the pants, and it's pretty much custom fit for each firefighter to have. Go to the next slide, please. Okay, so our self-containing breathing apparatus is the apparatus that we wear when we fight fires or in any space that has carcinogens or lack of oxygen. And the cascade system is the system that fills it. Currently, our SCBAs, the shelf life for them are 15 years. We're currently at 13 years. We're due to replace them in 2024. This is something I also put in the CIP to be replaced. Our cascade system has been modified once during the last 35 years of the green containers to also we can fill oxygen with them. But the same thing, the NFPA states that we should only have these SCBAs for 15 years. We have a new radio system coming in for the state that we've already bought radios and everything for all the firefighters, and our old SCBAs right now are not compatible with those. They will not communicate with and able to talk back and forth, which is normally the number one reason for line of duty death is lack of communication and our talk boxes with them. So I'm asking for us to update our self-contained breathing apparatus and our filling station with that $500,000. That if you look back at it was 50 SCBAs and it comes with 2 bottles. There's $7,500 a set. The new cascade system is $125,000. Would be $500,000 to get that done. We go to the next slide. So recently, with all of the storms that we've been having this year, has really identified a problem for us with our backup generators at all our fire stations. So these are the pictures of each generator at every station. Now, I know I'm going to talk about a new station 1 and a new station 3. I was not looking to update those, but put in a switch box that I could put a portable generator in them until we decide what we want to do with those stations. Station 5 needs a total renovation of it, and Station 4 needs a lot of work to get it turned over. I feel, and from the NFPA, that it should run 75% of the station. And currently, right now, it's probably running about 30 to 40%, depending on the station. We've had a lot of issues with our generators. They are older and they're tired. A lot of them were put in when we built the stations back in the 60s and 70s. And the problem has been for me, and why I put asterisk on this of 126,000. I've only got one quote for this right now. I just had a company come out yesterday, but there is a lack of vendors that actually service generators on this level. I have 2 more individuals coming, but the product demand with this, I mean, it's 30 weeks to even talk about a generator right now with trying to find one. But this will help us continue our emergency operations as well as communicate back and forth with dispatch and our notification system. Station 5 also holds one of critical servers for the IT that I know Mr. Anosa was talking about some IT stuff there. But we have a server that's housed in our building that also needs to maintain power, as well as we're a backup for the county. And I mean, just open the apparatus door so we can get the trucks out to respond when there's an outage with that. So we can go to the next slide. Okay, Fire Station 1 was built in '67. We've had very little updates with this station over the years. We're looking at severe structural issues and concerns with this building. A lot of water leaks. This building is full of asbestos, and it doesn't meet the needs right now we have for our current staffing. We have no separate male and female restrooms or locker rooms. With this and me talking to recently, I've talked to 5 different fire departments and fire chiefs that built fire stations in the last 2 years. Now they bid it from anywhere from $300 to $350 a square, and they all had to go back to the city for more money. When they look back at it and recalculated, it was more about $420 a square foot for all the intricate things when you add them all up for what they need in the station. With that, I know this is a tremendous ask, but we've been, I bring this up every year with the CIP, and when the building was assessed, just recently assessed, it stated it needed $2.3 million worth of renovations just to bring it up to right now, which doesn't meet the needs. I currently plan to bring all the administrative to this station. That's why the size of the station, fire prevention, and the admin staff there, with adding some conference room, conference rooms and proper facilities to grow and maintain the department. So we can go to the next slide. And Station 3, currently 60 years old. It was built in 64. It's what COVID has really brought out with this station is the size, and that it's not equipped to handle. Right now, I have 4 firefighters stationed at this, and sometimes 5, but minimum is 4. And we have our radio system in our bedroom. If you can see the second picture shows that's the living area for that station. That's it. That's all I have for 4 and sometimes 5 individuals to sit down, and that's the living room and the eating area for them. Sleeping quarters, like I said, has the radios in them and is very tight. And we have 1 bathroom, no separate bathrooms for our male or female firefighters, as well as no locker room. No privacy as far as being able to change or get ready for the next shift with that. As well as this is a station that we have to be very careful on the size apparatus we buy, because of when it was built, it wasn't built to hold a taller fire truck. This building did have a renovation on the apparatus ceiling. The roof collapsed back in '95, and they replaced that and added a weight room on the other side. But this building was said it didn't need $500,000 just to get it up to speed. But that also doesn't address our needs of having male and female firefighters, and as well as giving them the room. And when I had a COVID outbreak in this station, pretty much everybody was associated with it. So if one person got COVID, they all were an exposure to that because of how close contact they were in this building. And there was no way around that. It came to the point almost where I started to get a camper or something out back so I could separate them so they weren't in close contact with one another with that. So that is presentation I have. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about the 5.
Commissioners, are there any questions?
Commissioner, Commissioner Culpepper.
Go ahead, Commissioner Culpepper.
Chief, you always come prepared, and you always come laying out the details. I think all these 5 proposals are great. As always, your proposals are to continue to keep your firefighters up to date and safe. And you want to make sure you are current and make sure they got the right equipment. Like I said some time ago to you, I know your department was hit very, very hard with the COVID code, and it shows why. Your people are working in close proximity. There's no way they can do spacing. So I truly hope that I'm quite sure you don't get the equipment you need, but this is a great proposal. It stays right in the realm of what you always do. You spell out your needs, your requirements, and you tell why. So I think great job, Chief, as always. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioners, any further questions? Hearing none.
Just want,
Okay, Commissioner Martin.
I just want to clarify, you did say that the capital expenditure included the new station 1 and station 3?
No, I did not. Those have not been put into the CIP. No, I have not. We've been working on things to try to bring the stations up, but you know, when we started looking at this and looking at the infrastructure of what it would cost, and looking at actually having the buildings actually assessed, and the millions of dollars, especially at Station 1, needing 2.3 million worth of work. I just didn't think it was something that we needed to go down that road and keep putting money. I hate to use it, keep putting lipstick on a pig, but we needed to look at where are we going with this, and put the money. Once we start, you know how it is, once you start getting into a building with asbestos and all that, it really changes the game of trying to remodel versus building. And from the conversations I've had with 5 other fire chiefs, is the price of remodeling compared to building new is night and day. The remodel is in the price of lumber, and it is, in my opinion, it doesn't make sense to try to update it instead of rebuilding.
Chief Menifee, this is Rob Willis. Just a quick question. I don't think I've asked this question this way. I think we're looking at a projected expenditure of something like $9 million. You have one station that could take the $9 million. If you had one item that you said is the most important item on your list, the one that we should consider most, which would that be?
Thank you. I appreciate the question. I put them in order of importance for me. Firefighters, their gear. That would be, they're sweating, their pores are open. If their gear isn't clean and the carcinogens can seep down into their pores and sweat and cause cancer, that's my number one thing. The SCBAs would be number 2.
Okay. Thank you much. I appreciate that. Commissioners, any further questions? Hearing none, Chief, I think that concludes it. I appreciate your presentation. It gives us a lot of material to work with, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate the time and the consideration with the items. Thank you.
You have a great day.
You also.
Terry, I think we are on board for the next. Is that Public Works?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it is Public Works, and the DPW Superintendent, AJ, is on the line.
Yes, hello, this is AJ Jensen, Superintendent DPW. Can you hear me?
We can hear you well. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Public Works is, yes, thank you. I'll tell you next slide. Nope, you're okay.
Sorry.
Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, just a quick overview. The competition here is very good, I have to say. So I wanted to, another facet to another part of the city that's often overlooked is Public Works. We support the fire department. We support the police department. We are also a department of 7 other departments. We are forestry, we are water, we are sewer, we are highway, we are sign shop, we are motor pool, or fleet management, same thing, and communications. We are the roundhouse on the other side of the city. As a whole, DPW is the largest budgeted department in the city, surpassing police and fire, with all departments encompassing of close to a little over $51 million. What we were hoping for and applying for is some renovation to the building itself, the roundhouse itself. It's the building was built in thank you. The building itself was built in the late 60s. In my 21 years, there's only been one small renovation to one of the offices, short of painting and some new carpet. The city has maintained and did upgrades to other parts of the building itself, but the offices have only had, that I've ever seen, is one. The health and safety is what we want to base our grant, yes, thank you, on is currently the working spaces in the office and offices is very limited, small, and very tight. And in this day and age of COVID and awareness and social distancing, it's become very apparent that there's not enough room for us. Now there is space in the building for expansion. Next slide, please. Yes. In the next couple of slides, you're going to see a couple different variations, but all of them try to achieve a safe and social distancing for health and safety for the employees. We're also open to the public as well, so we do have that exposure when that happens. Currently we have many. I would say 85 to 95% of everybody in the building works on that is administrative or office itself is an open cubicle, sharing walls that are only up to your navel at best. They're very short walls, and standing up, you're looking right at the other person who's sitting directly on the other side of the wall. Now we do have, next slide, please. Here's another variation of what we would like to do. And this would also include a women's bathroom renovation is included in this as well. Next slide, please. Now this slide was included that I don't know if we would actually use all of these cubicles. We don't need all of them, but we are given a couple variations of something that we thought would work. Next slide, please. Again, same thing, different ideas, more office oriented for the administrative side. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is included in our 5-year plan, our 5-year capital improvement program summary for 21-22 through 26-27. Next slide, please. Okay, here's the cost summary of what we're asking for. Basically, for all intents and purposes, it comes out to $774,000. $774,000. That would include administrative offices, the offices for water billing and highway, and again, the women's bathroom and the expansion of I think that's pretty much all I have. Any questions?
Commissioners, if you have this is an opportunity to ask any questions.
I'd just like to know where your building is located.
Yes, we call ourselves the redheaded stepchild sometimes. We are right on Franklin Road, just a hair south of 696. On west of Telegraph itself, south of 12. If anyone's seen that funny little salt dome that the county owns when traveling, yes, right there. That's not our salt dome, but we are just a little bit farther west. If you were to split off and do the US 10 south or southeast and not do the 696, you'll see our second salt dome. We're in that little tiny wedge there. That's where all the salt trucks come out of. Police and fire, our vehicles are maintained there. Communications, water and sewer come out of there. Sign shop, all of forestry. We're 7 departments. I like to call us behind police and fire. There's the third layer, the third emergency onion, I guess if you could call it, that third layer is DPW.
Commissioners, any further questions? And I have a couple of questions. How many people work in the building itself?
About, if I'm correct, almost, if not close to 90 people. It might be a little bit more. Actually, you know, it has to be a little bit more. We've done a little bit of hiring, closer to 100 now.
The area you're looking to rebuild, how many will be in that area?
Let's see. That's a good question, because 90% of those people are workers, is in AFSCME 329 union workers. The office staff is 2, 3, 6, 7, budgeted 13 in the one office. On the administrative side, we're looking at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the administrative side. So
Are you looking at about
20 people.
How much remote work will they engage in?
Well, we rotated during COVID to keep the traffic down. We are capable of remote working, although we are fully staffed currently. We do not have anybody working from home, but we are capable of.
Okay. Commissioners, any further questions? Then with that, Mr. Jensen, I think I have to thank you for.
All right, thank you. If I may say,
sure.
if one more thing, please. If anyone wants to come visit us, open doors. We're welcome to show you who and what we are and what we do. On any given day, you just let us know, and we'll happy to host you. I myself will personally buy you lunch to have you come over and just spend 10 minutes, half an hour, and you can see who we are and what we do.
Can we pick what we want for lunch? I thank you for your time, and I do thank you for the offer.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You take care.
Thank you.
With that, are we looking at cable 15?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. And Lisa Hawkins is on the line.
Lisa, how are you?
I'm fine. Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you.
Good. Well, first off, cable is all about the residents. And we give them information and communication on a daily basis. During COVID, we sent important messages out to the community through the mayor, the city administrator, and we went around the city and did a lot of video production and gave information back that hopefully could be used to the residents about what was going on and what the city was doing to get us through this difficult time. At the moment, a lot of our equipment is nearing end of life or has died. Jeff, do you have the PowerPoint?
I do, yep.
Thank you. You can skip to the next page, yeah. The first one is our editors. They're at the end of life and they no longer support the software that we do, and it's very important that we have the editors up so we can get the information correctly and package it right. One of them accidentally, well, not accidentally, it died last week, so we're down one, but we wanted to replace the editors with new editing equipment and also purchase laptops so the staff can do some editing from home. The second thing we wanted to replace is our lighting. Now that is super duper old. That is, the lights in the studio were put in 1982, which makes them 39 years old. And they're tungsten standard light bulbs. They require more power and they use a lot of heat. We want to replace the entire lighting system down there with LED lights, which would make it much more cooler and safer. And our lighting board, as a matter of fact, is half working, so we need to replace that as well. The third thing is our cable cast. That's our playback system. And we want to replace that, unfortunately, because it's running on Microsoft Windows 7 and it needs to be upgraded. The good part about this is going forward with this new equipment from Cablecast, we'll be able to stream to more facilities. For instance, we'll be able to stream to Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon. So anyone who has those 3 devices, they could see our channel 24/7, and that will allow us to reach even a broader audience. The next thing we wanted to upgrade is our server system. That too needs upgrading. It's at end of life, and we wanted to expand it to incorporate more footage that we could save for the future. Next slide. We also wanted to get a more professional teleprompter system that has a monitor and clock on board to keep our hosts up to date about how much time is needed when we're trying to record a program. The next thing we need is a newer switcher. The current switcher we have is near end of life. And this particular model, because technology is changing all of the time, is based on a server system. So it would allow us to program even more inputs into the switcher. In fact, we need the switcher as we speak because that's what's going through the signal through our system so people can see the streaming and the television show that we're putting on right now. And it serves all our meetings, the planning meeting, the cable, and zoning board. We also wanted to put, I forgot to put that on as far as a picture, we wanted to put remote cameras in the library that can be controlled here from the control room where I'm sitting right now. We can control them and use less staff, and it would be less setup, but we'd be able to capture more programs that are going on over there, which I think would make for better programming on our channel. And the final thing is we need to be ADA compliant. And we could do that by purchasing this closed captioning system, which would allow and which would help a lot of people who are in our audience who are hearing impaired. So with the purchase of this, we would be all our programming would have closed captioning. The meetings, our entertainment, our sports, everything would have closed captioning on, and I think that would help a great deal of the audience. The next slide. With everything, including shipping, handling, and installation, the final cost is $488,307. And with all of this under your consideration, Cable 15 is going to be ready to meet future viewing demands in not only streaming, but whatever communication technology is out there. We're planning to go forward with this, so this should last another good few years. And I want to thank you so much for your time and your consideration. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. With that, commissioners, do you have any questions?
Commissioner Huntington, to the chair.
Commissioner Huntington first, Commissioner Gunn afterwards.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, I think this update is well needed. And I really like the fact that, residents will be able to use Roku, whatever, to watch some of the programming. Right now, I do hear it quite often that, people want to watch the city council meetings, but a lot of times they don't have cable or the right cable to get it. So that would enable a lot of people to really watch the city council meetings and other meetings through the city channel.
Mm-hmm.
So
right now, just to let you know, we are on YouTube. But this would allow us to go even broader audience.
Yes. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gunn.
Commissioner Huntington took the words right out my mouth, so I just have one word. Ditto.
Thank you.
To the chair, Mr. Culpepper.
Commissioner Culpepper.
Ms. Hawkins.
Yes, sir.
Just want to thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the great work you are doing with antiquated equipment. This equipment is old as some of us are, and you and your crew have still been able to record, film, and do whatever the council and administration has asked you to do with this equipment. So I again appreciate everything that you and your crew are doing and hope very seriously that this new equipment will enable you to be more efficient and continue to serve the city and the council as you have been doing for all these years. So
Thank you
thank
so
you very
much.
much.
Thank you so much for your kind words. I think it'll do the job.
This is Commissioner Willis. I'm sorry. Was there a question?
Yes.
Go ahead, Commissioner
Mr.
Martin.
Martin?
Go ahead.
What impact will Windows 11 have on, you're talking about having Windows 7 now. Microsoft is working on putting out Windows 11. What impact will that have on you?
Well, depending on if and when we get this equipment, we would go to the next available software version. But I know our programmer, is running on Windows 7, and it's outdated, and it can't be. If anything, gosh forbid, it would happen, it would go down. And so they're not servicing it right now. So if we go to the next one, it would probably either be on Windows 10 or 11. I'd have to check with the manufacturer.
Right now, you can upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 10, but as you say, if you have problems with it, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot with Windows 7.
Thank you for bringing that up. I'll look into that.
That Windows 11 is putting a lot more tied in together throughout the whole Windows suite with everything they do, and that seems like that can make things a little difficult to maneuver at times, coming up with new equipment and then a new system, operating system coming in right behind it.
Well, the programmer, it will be basically the same. There may be some new updated features, but basically it'll be the same. The platform that it's running on is just what's going to change.
Thank you very much. And keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Willis. Two questions. One is, did I see the cost of additional software in your presentation?
No, but I can itemize it for you if you would like.
Just a ballpark, not to itemize.
Okay. Well, actually, for that one particular piece of gear, that particular programmer runs on Windows 10. So it's incorporated into the system.
Okay. So you're saying this would just be minimal cost?
Well, the software is, let me see how much that is. The TRMS is, it's $15,000.
Okay, so that would be in addition to the 488?
No, that's including.
Okay,
That's just for the playback system.
Okay. It's just for the playback system. That's not the complete cost of software for this?
No, the software is built in.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Oh yeah, it's built in. This is including everything, including shipping costs and labor.
Okay, thanks. Secondly, you've mentioned your staff. How many people do you have on staff?
Well, unfortunately, we lost 6 people over the last couple of years, and right now we are in the process of hiring 2 more producer directors, but on staff right now, I only have 2 full-time career employees and 2 contractual employees, non-career employees, and myself. That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, commissioners, any questions? Well, let me thank you for presenting. It is always good to see what's going on in back of the screen, and it gives us a lot of information we have to deliver, right? So again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon.
You too. Terry, I think we are at Parks and Rec.
Hello, this is Terry Fields, Parks and Recreation Director. Good afternoon, commissioners.
Thank you. Good
the rest of the Southfield team. And thank you, Lisa Hawkins, I have to give you a shout out for the development of our new Parks and Recreation logo. So thank you very much.
Harry.
Because of COVID, like for so many, Parks and Recreation's last year and a half has looked very different. We have had a loss of revenue in the area of about a 1.4 million. We've had different programming avenues and an extraordinary amount of programming developed outdoors. We've got 10 projects in front of you. These projects do go in concert for the most part with our 5-year capital improvement project plan. And actually the needs and the learned lessons as a result of COVID. I said that most of them are part of our capital improvement project plan. The timing of them, of a couple of them, may have been moved up because of the need for programming space outside. We were charged with the challenge of not only developing programs that folks would come to and enjoy and have a quality experience, but also in concert with keeping our residents safe and having them feel comfortable. So in front of you, these 10 projects, I want you to know that they meet, 5 of them meet 2 of the categories of the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, and 5 of them fall into 3 categories: public health, lost revenue, and infrastructure. And I will go through, if it's all right with you, I'll go through these 10 quickly. There's information that is there in very small words, but I'll try and highlight this for you. The first one is the purchase of the mobile stage, movie screen, and sound system. Due to COVID, we had to cancel a lot of our indoor programs and activities. Supporting public health in our social distancing and behavioral steps that we had to make. Purchasing a mobile stage and movie screen will be able to develop and organize more outdoor activities. The stage, I know you've heard me in the past talk about our outdoor stage. The stage has passed its useful life. It's over 50 years old. It is not road safe, and we only have a limited use. With a new mobile stage, it allows us not only to expand our outdoor programming for Parks and Recreation, but it also allows us to support other departments and their programs and their events and any partnerships that we take on. And it also allows us to provide additional source of revenue that we'd be able to rent out to some of our neighbors in some neighboring cities. Second, we've got the replacement of playground structures at 6 of our parks. I know you've heard other folks talk about this. Parks and Recreation is no stranger to this. Outside activity is where everything was happening for the most part when we could get together. It continues to be that. We had a 400% increase of folks using outdoor spaces. These playground structures for sure are past their useful life. They're in the area, I'd say these 6 are in the area of 15 to 25 years old. And it is part of our plan to replace these structures. We've got them listed for you, the first 6. We've got 12 playgrounds that have playground structures. These 6 are our first pass through here. It will be Freeway Park, Civic Center, Seminole, Stratford Woods, Barwick, and Bedford Woods. So the replacement of playground structures is critical in us being able to provide really safe amenities for our residents. Third is the Miller and Sims Park development. We've already started some work in gathering information and some quotes for the replacement of our Miller and Sims Park basketball courts, tennis courts, and we are going to provide some pickleball courts. Along with this, we're taking a look at walking trails around those 2 parks, both Sims and Miller. You're going to hear me talk about tennis courts for the next couple years here. We've got tennis courts here at Civic Center. Again, due to COVID, we have had more Activities in our parks and tennis courts have been no exception. Our tennis programs have doubled in participation, both here and at Beechwoods. But our tennis courts here at Civic Center, we've got several areas on the tennis courts where we have upheaval in the playing surfaces. So repair is critical in providing some safety and playability. The next one's the interpretive trail system at Lincoln Woods. Walking, as you know, very popular activity, very safe activity. But along with that walking comes a need from our residents, just through their feedback, to also have interpretive and educational experiences. So we've coupled that together at Lincoln Woods. Next is Beechwood Master Plan. We will be presenting Monday night the results of that Beechwoods Master Plan that we've worked on for the last 5-6 months. And this actually would be addressing the first 2 phases of that plan. We've got a really nice balance there with the Beechwoods Master Plan. I don't want to give away too much information, but we have a really nice balance with activity, revenue generation, and a passive area for walking. You heard Mary Beal talk about those pods where we can offer Wi-Fi services and quiet spaces and areas within a park to be able to spend some time, whether it be even a business meeting or just a couple of folks taking some time out at that park. We've got a really nice balance at the Beechwoods Park Master Plan in passive and active. But mostly you'll hear us talk about sustainability, because in order to have a park that size, it's about 80 acres, we need to offer not only some passive recreation, but also some recreation that will bring in some revenue. So you'll hear more about that, but we've got a placeholder here with Beechwoods of about $250,000, $280,000 to help us address that first and second phase. Next on our list, if you've spent any time here at Civic Center and you've rented that shelter, one of the 2 shelters here in the back, when you need to use the restroom, you use a porta potty. Or if our pool is open, you can come into the building and use the pool restrooms. We need indoor facilities for that space. We've not provided the standard that Parks and Recreation is proud to offer. The funds would be used to support and improve public health, and also just provide a quality experience when you rent our shelters. If you know that they're booked, I come before the Planning Commission every year and talk about the need for an increase in pavilion and shelters. So while this one stays very busy, both of them stay very busy, we would like to provide inside bathrooms for that space. Evergreen Hills Golf Pass is next on the list. So our course has made some major steps moving forward in our golfers' experience. We also want to keep in mind accessibility. It's a priority. Our cart paths are only semi-functional and unsafe in some areas. So we've been doing some patchwork, but really high quality service and experience is our goal. The funds would be used to provide some new cart paths for safety and for the quality of experience. And next is Inglenook Park restroom roof replacement. This is just part of our assessment through facilities. It has been assessed and evaluated, and the roof does need to be replaced there. Last on the list is the Civic Center Arena. I've got Pavilion and the Berg. So over at the Civic Center, we are looking at our sports arena. Actually, we're looking at replacing the scoreboard there. We do about $250,000 to $300,000 worth of revenue over there at the ice, and so we do need a new scoreboard. The Pavilion, we are fortunate enough to have that space here known as the Southfield Pavilion. We host trade shows, concerts and whatnot, but the carpet is about 25 years old. So we do need to replace that in order to continue our activity there and actually to bring in new users. And last is the Berg. We've got some fencing issues out there, but I'll be honest with you, we've got a larger project going on. We've got an evaluation and assessment of the Berg and all of those buildings right now. And we're waiting for results of that soon. So we've got 10 projects before you. I could come up with 20 more. Parks and Recreation has not had a whole lot of capital improvement projects here in the last 20 years. We've learned a lot through COVID. We've learned how to do some things differently, but mainly we've learned the importance and the priority of outdoor spaces and improving what we have and developing new spaces as well. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you listening. I hope I didn't go too fast, but I didn't want to lose you here in these 10 projects. They're all very important. Everything you've heard today from all the departments is very important as well. We do work as a team, and we appreciate the support, and I'd answer any questions that you might have.
With that, Commissioners, are there any questions?
Through the chair, Commissioner Huntington.
Commissioner Huntington, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, everything you have mentioned is pretty much well needed, and I think will be great assets for the city of Southfield. What I didn't hear is anything actually indoors that's being done. You know, we are in Michigan, and we got about 5 cold months where kids are in the house going crazy. Are there any updates or anything going on that's going to be indoors?
Yep, that last one, the pavilion, is important for us. That pavilion space is very large. If we could replace the flooring there, depending on what we put in that spot, we could have programming opportunities throughout the winter months. We do right now as it is, but it is limited. It's got carpet in it right now, so we've talked about using some different surfaces for that space. So we'd be able to do some nighttime programming as well as some during the day programming. I don't think that the city offices would mind if we use that space. I don't think we'd have a concert in there during regular business hours, but I think having that programming space there is very important. I guess to be honest with you, Commissioner, we tried to stay within our 1.4 to 1.5, $2 million total amount of investment. We've been fortunate to be supported by the general fund and by all of you and our council in making the Beechwoods improvements, and spent about $2.5 million over at Beechwoods Recreation Center. And we're really proud of that space. And so I tried to be reasonable in my ask, but I agree with you too. We are year round. We're hoping to get back to that. It's been such a long time that we've had programs inside in the winter time. So we are looking forward to that. But yeah, we're looking at being able to improve the pavilion and that indoor space. We've been fortunate to be able to do some generalities here at Civic Center, and know that we've got some challenges here when it comes to restrooms and things such as that. But we're trying to work in concert too with the entire city, because I know that we had that assessment done with all of our facilities and services. So we want to move forward in a pace and in a way that makes sense for everybody. So right now we were looking at pavilion, and we're looking at our outdoor spaces as well. But I appreciate your comments.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Good job.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Commissioner Martin.
Commissioner Martin, go ahead.
First, I'm going to throw you a curveball. What's going on at Lasher Woods Park?
They're using, are you talking about the construction?
Yes.
Yeah, they're actually, they reached out to us and wanted to use Lasser Woods to house some of their construction supplies, if you will, for road project there. They wanted to be able to make it as manageable for the residents by using some of our park space so that they wouldn't have to store that in the streets. And what they've agreed to do in return is make the space better than it was when they got there, and to make some improvements to that parking lot.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You were talking about the pavilion. I assume that you would be able to use the portable stage there to probably put on some activities inside in the winter.
Actually, we have a portable. I don't know if it's a portable stage, but it's the planks that we can build up on the inside for a staging area. The outdoor portable stage is strictly for outdoor use. I mean, I was sure there's a building that it could be pulled into, but the particular stage that we're talking about, Commissioner, is one that is larger, a little bit larger than what we have right now. And we would pull it behind a truck, and it would be used in outdoor spaces in some of our parks and in some of our parking areas for large group activities.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any further questions, commissioners?
Commissioner, this is Culpepper.
Commissioner Culpepper.
Terry, let me say thank you and your team. Under these trying situations, your team has still put together a very active and engaging program to keep the residents active and engaged. So through your hard work and putting together programs that the residents can come out, can enjoy themselves, and feel safe and secure. And the numbers show that. Especially over at Beechwood, because I'm over there a lot. But again, thank you for what you're doing. And although a lot of this is in the CIP, these are things, as Commissioner Huntington has said, just greatly needed to keep the residents active and involved in the city. So thank you and your team, and great job.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure seeing you.
Always, dear.
Ms. Hill, this is Commissioner Willis. I think you started your presentation with a statement that you had a $1.4 million loss. Was that a loss of kind of user fee loss, or was that a loss due to budgetary allotment from the city?
Oh no, that was user fee loss. We lost 1.4 million, but we worked really hard. We have an awesome, as you probably know, we have an awesome financial director of finances here for us in our service area, as well as an awesome city administrator. So we had some conversation early on about making some adjustments to our budget. Knowing that we were looking at a loss, we also had to make some cuts in our budget. So we fared out pretty well, but we did go through a $1.4 million revenue loss, and that was user fees and renting fees. So not only our user fees for classes, but the fees for renting the ice to our three big clients with Little Caesars, Detroit Country Day. So we lost those, as well as our rental fees for our pavilions and our shelters.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Commissioner Martin, I'm good. Your turn.
At one time, there was talk about one of the schools using the football field. Is that still something that's a possibility? Inglenook.
Inglenook? I don't know anything about the football field. I know that there was a point in time right before the pandemic when the baseball teams, Little League Baseball has been struggling here in Southfield, and so we try and give support there. And so I know that we line some fields for them and work with them, and I know that they also work with the school system as well. But boy, I'm at a loss for the football field opportunity.
I was under the impression Brother Rice was looking for a field to hold games at.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
I think that was a
This is
number of
Geraldine
years
Stevens
ago.
Gunn. This is Geraldine Stevens Gunn.
Commissioner Gunn?
I got a question. I'm unclear. The football field and the pavilion, are those, all of those things, conversations, a part of this process? Because I didn't see anything about that. And if I'm missing something, I would really appreciate it if somebody would fill me in.
I'm not sure about the football field comment or question. I think he was just in reference to using some of our existing facilities to accommodate or work with a future partner. So I answered that question, and I hadn't heard anything, nor have I received a request about that. The pavilion, yes, that is part of, it's the 10th item. It's the 10th project where it says Civic Center, Arena, and Pavilion. And the pavilion is located right here in the center of our municipal offices, and Parks and Recreation works to oversee that and work with the rest of our city neighbors here and city departments in managing that space. And so part of our request and consideration is to replace the flooring in that space so that we can get a better usability from it and even create some revenue for the city.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was on the right track.
You're on the right track. I appreciate your question.
Again, commissioners, any further questions? Hearing none, Ms. Fields, you were the last presenter for us, and thank you for not being the least presenter for us.
Okay.
You've given us a lot of information, and we do thank you for the time that you've spent with us. We have a lot to think about.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, commissioners.
So thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
This is Administrator Zorn. I'd like to just comment, Parks and Rec. When we talk about Parks and Rec, I think there's part of the equation that we forget about, and that's, you know, the city's tax base did drop $1 billion between 2008, the official drop was 2010, where we're at today. With Parks and Rec dedicated millage of that's about 1.5. And I like to just remind people, you now have 11 years of 1.5 million less to work with. You know, same thing with the library, and you see that exasperation of some of your resources in capital. I will tell you that Parks and Rec has stabilized its fund balance, as well as the library. And I think there's another step that I'll be talking to Planning Director Crode and Finance Director Michaels about, is just identifying this list, just so you have a better matrix of where we have additional funding sources. For example, some of the things in the water department, maybe there's some cost sharing in some of these things. The public works piece, a percentage of that roundhouse improvement would be something that could be charged to the water department. So I'm just thinking about some of these things on here and how we could cobble possible under other funding sources to, stretch these dollars. So I will be speaking with Austin Michaels and Terry Crode regarding that. I believe Terry's out till next week, but I'll have a meeting with both of them early next week, and we'll continue to just filter some of these items for other possible ways to fund these items.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zorn.
Thank you.
Again, I'm going to assume no more questions of Ms. Fields. I think she concluded it. So with that, Terry, I believe we have concluded our mission of the day.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time too, commissioners.
You take care. So I am not sure where we are. I believe we are at the point of public comment, or is there anything we needed to add, Terry?
Yes, we are. So for the public, again, who's listening or watching, this is the opportunity that you have to, excuse me, to make comments to the Planning Commission. You are limited to a total of 3 minutes. If you do call in, we do ask that you provide us with your name and your address for the record. On the slide that is currently shown, We do provide the call-in information. The telephone number to call in for Webex is 1-415-655-0001. And then when prompted, you can put in the event number 179-505-8783, and that's followed by the pound signs twice. Because of the bit of a delay, 30 seconds to a minute between the live planning commission and then what's shown on cable, Mr. Chairman, we will kind of wait a minute or so to see if we have anyone call in. Should they call in, again, I will ask them to state their name and address for the record. But we'll give it a minute or so here and see if we have any phone callers. And I'll be back with you shortly.
Thank you so much.
Oh, we're waiting. I have a question for Lisa Hawkins.
If she's still on board?
No,
she is.
Yeah. Lisa, will the new equipment have an improvement for the time delay between Webex calls and the video and the live cable 15? I guess she's not available or not listening right now.
Nope, she's on. She just needs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I think the only person we have on the attendee list is actually Mr. Huntington. I will ask the question anyway. Do we have anyone from the public who would like to make a comment at this time? And Mr. Chairman, again, it appears that we have no one for public comment this evening.
That would then end the public comment period. We would then look at minutes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, there are no minutes this evening. The only other item that I would have with regard to tonight's meeting would be with regard to your next meeting. We don't have anything for the September 15th long-range study meeting, which means your next meeting would be September 22nd. So 2 weeks from now, we would take up the items that we discussed last week, the two planning items, as well as the final determination and a recommendation on the American Recovery Funds.
Fair enough. Will we see that in a, I guess I was looking for a summary. It makes sense for us to put our own summaries together here today. So I look forward to meeting you then on 10/15.
Yeah, if I may, just to that point, there was some additional information that was provided tonight. We do need to make some changes to the booklet that Planner Mullally had sent out last Thursday.
Okay.
So we need to do some updating on that. So we will send that out to you next Friday, the 17th. So you will have all the most up-to-date information with regard to not only the site plan items, but the American Recovery Funds items as well.
Okay, thank you. Then are there any miscellaneous items we need to discuss?
Nothing from me, sir.
Yes, was that?
I thought we got a memo saying that there was a meeting on the 22nd with the council, city council.
That was not set up by planning. I'm not aware of that, sir.
Yeah, I'll have to go through my email, but I'm sure I saw something where we were supposed to do something for the 22nd. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. I have nothing on my
Okay,
calendar.
well, if I may, through the chair, Administrator Zorn, is there something that planning isn't aware of yet?
No, I'm not aware of.
Okay.
And our meeting dates with council are the 13th, the 20th, and the 27th. I'm not aware of anything. I apologize.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so again, Mr. Martin, planning is not aware of anything, and as Administrator Zorn has just noted, he's not aware of a meeting either that's being scheduled for the 22nd.
I could have my meetings mixed up, and I'm terribly sorry.
Okay.
Okay. With that, hearing no more miscellaneous items, I declare this meeting adjourned.